Welcome to the Next Set podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rehan Tahir. This show is going to be about everyday humans who want to train with purpose and perform better in real life. We'll break down strength and conditioning, exercise and fitness, along with mindset with coaches who live it. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Next Set podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rehan Tahir. I'm very excited today. We have a very special guest. We have athlete, strongman, coach, business leader. We've got Chad Coy in the building today. Chad, welcome. Really excited to chat with you today.
Really excited to be here. It's always nice to share knowledge with other people.
Yep, awesome. Thank you. So for those that don't know, maybe you could take a couple minutes and just talk a little bit about your background, but then how you also got into health and fitness and what that journey's been like for you.
Well, I kind of uh, it kind of honestly, my fitness journey kind of all started back in first grade when I was diagnosed as learning disabled. So I got to attend special classes a couple times a week, working on reading. More. I think I was more nervous than anything. It's just reading in public. So, I mean, that was first, second, third, fourth grade. In fourth grade, I got introduced to the bookmobile. Um, Kind of just honestly, I fell in love with the first book I ever read by myself was Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan of the Apes. And
Mm.
I was hooked. I mean, I was hooked on fantasy and I read everything. I was a voracious reader of fantasy. So that was like that was fourth grade. And I watched sports, I saw sports, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger did the Conan the Barbarian, and I remember seeing that in the springtime for my 12th birthday, and just telling my mom that that's what I want to look like. She goes, "Really? Okay." So I started reading books on strength training, but they wouldn't let me strength train. So my mom's like, literally I pestered the crap out of my mom to take me to the gym, and for my 12th birthday, she got me a gym membership at a place called it was a Nautilus Center. So I just remember it was a Saturday. We went to the gym and she bought me a gym membership and I met the coach and then I got a workout and then I've been kind of doing it ever since. I mean, I haven't really workouts just became important. I went 3 days a week at the time because that's all they'd let you. I'd try to sneak in for a fourth, but they'd always catch me. And you can only train 3 days a week. You can have to train this protocol, which at the time Nautilus was based on the principles of high intensity put out by Arthur Jones and Dr. Ellington Darden, um, and several others. I mean, like Mike Mentzer was a huge proponent of high intensity.
Yep.
And again, whether you believe it, disbelieve it, whatever, that's where I started. It gave me a great foundation. I learned to move. Then I just applied it in athletics, and as I kept training, then I just kept buying more books, reading more books, reading magazines, but back in the 80s, what'd you do? You read the Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, Flex, Muscular Development, Muscle and Fitness, Muscle Mag, you just read them all and try to get some information. Then in the back of some of those books were books like, Hard Gainer,
Yep.
Dinosaur Training, Iron Mind. So I kind of went down that route, which was more strongman related, more old school 1950s training. So I think that really resonated with me because it was like, just how to go and train. And that led me to and I played sports. I played football and I wanted to play college football. Um, didn't know anything about college. I mean, I was the first person in my family to graduate college and so it was really I wasn't really sure. So I just kind of listened to what my coaches did, which, they had the best intentions, but they didn't really know. We didn't do
Yeah.
it was bad because then I was self-taught. So then everyone was like, well, he knows how to do it. So they coaches send people over to talk to me. Here, Coy will teach you how to squat. And I just started going to the gym and, I was 12. So 2 years later, I had an accident, almost lost my hand. But during that summer, it's like I wanted to have a gym. So I didn't want to have to go any place, because
Hmm.
sometimes it got really rough to get there. So like the gym was not that far away, but we lived in back roads, so I could ride my bike over to the gym. So there'd be days I would literally ride my bike to the gym so I could go train, and then I'd ride my bike home. Um, and then as I got older, there were other gyms, so I started looking at that. But it's like, I didn't want to be tied down. And I'd always worked and I'd saved money, and we owned an apple orchard, so I took all my money from the apple orchard and I bought my own gym.
Nice.
Right before my right before my sophomore year in high school. And, you know, put the gym, we had a convenience store that my parents owned. So I put it back. We had an old apple crisper because it was an apple orchard. And so it was cold in the summer and it was not super cold in the winter. It wasn't super cold or hot in the summer. So it was a great place to train, but I had a squat rack and a leg press and deadlifts and barbells and dumbbells and incline. So I did everything. Was it right? Probably not. I don't think I really started training properly until I was in my mid 20s.
Yeah.
End up going to school. Um, Instead of playing small ball, playing at a D2 school, D3 school, had lots of offers. I was going to go to Purdue and walk on because you had 5 years to play for. And I figured, it'd take me 2 or 3 years. I'll get big enough and I got 5 years to play. Well, I didn't realize that when you step on campus, your clock starts ticking. So by
Yeah.
the time I did walk on, I had no more eligibility. The coaching staff said, well, you don't have eligibility. Why you want to be here? It was really because I wanted to get into strength and conditioning. And then basically they called the head strength and conditioning coach, and I went down and interviewed. And he says, "You start Monday." I was like, "Well, okay, well, one door shut and another open." So started coaching and spent the next 91, 92 just helping the guys there where I went to school, working on my masters and stuff, and just basically giving my time.
Yeah.
And really that just kind of blossomed. So, I didn't get the assistantship, so I got kicked out in the real world and took a real job. And then so I went into the workforce in 92 and opened my first gym in 1995. And really, I worked in the nutrition industry, and my boss, I had two great bosses. I mean, it's Jim and Debbie Palco. I've been really blessed to have some really cool people in my life that mentored me. Dr. Thayer in college, and then Jim and Debbie, they just took me in their arms. Man, they taught me everything. They just literally taught me how to sell. I didn't know anything about sales. They taught me how to sell, taught me how to about business. Um, I wrote my business plan. I handed it to them, and they both read it, and it was like, all right, we were there. He goes, I could be right back. He ran to his office, brought back two checks. One check was for 20 grand. That was a gift. The other check was for 30 grand. That was what I owed him back. And it cost me 20% of my business. So that's how I started. And they were really gracious. I mean, I paid the 30,000. I shouldn't have paid the 30,000 in business mind. Shouldn't have paid the $30,000 back immediately. Should have taken my time, but I paid them back within a year. And then they
Yeah.
got a dividend check for the next 20 years. So they were never, I mean, they were happy with what they got out of the situation. So I thought it was pretty good. But that's really how I got started. Um,
Yeah.
and then for Parisi, anytime a kid would come in the gym, I would just try to find a way of training these kids, even though I had a real job. And I worked a real job until like 2003 because I didn't want to take it out of the business. Um, and anytime kids would come in, I just find a way of training because like I just wanted to give kids what I didn't have, which was knowledge. I love my coaches. My high school coaches were great, great men. They did a heck of a job coaching. They just didn't know strength and conditioning and speed, and that's what I've kind of dedicated my life to sports performance. So all my education was towards that, all my certifications towards that, all my readings towards that, you know, and it just kind of resonated with me. When I graduated, I kind of fell into powerlifting by
Mhm.
accident. I was servicing one of the gyms, and the guy who owned the gym, his name's Greg Gordon. His wife's Buffy Gordon. Both are world class strength athletes and bodybuilders. And he's like, dude, you should powerlift. So I was like, what's that? He's like, you don't know what powerlifting is? I'm like, I have no idea. So you squat, bench, and deadlift. Well, I do that anyway. So I just didn't know it had a sport.
Right.
So I did my first meet in 1993, and just absolutely loved it. Didn't realize that you're only supposed to do like 2 or 3 meets a year. So I was doing two meets a month, because I just didn't know. I mean, I just went,
Yeah.
well, I'll go do it again, and I just got better and better and did well and just enjoyed it. But I was still playing football. So my off season was powerlifting. Come June, it was, you got to start running, and July we're in practice. So I could never, ever do the big shows that I wanted at the time back then. That was uh, USPF and APF were the big organizations.
Yep.
I was doing NASA because it was in my state. I loved the ADFPA, but their nationals were always the same time as football, so I couldn't do it. Same with USPF and APF. So I just did NASA for a few years because it was drug tested. did AAU, ANPPC, WNPF, any drug tested meet I would do. And I did that while the time I was still playing football. So I really enjoyed football. Um, if I had been big enough coming out of high school, I could have played at a higher level. That's why I think it's so passionate for me to help kids because, like, I just didn't know. I mean, if I'd have known, I'd have been training differently, eating differently. Maybe I could have played high school football at 205, 210. That would have been a huge difference maker. I didn't get over 200 pounds till I was 21. So not a lot of need for inside linebacker at 200 pounds in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what was your position?
Well, I played inside and outside linebacker. So,
Okay.
but as I grew, as I got bigger, the size wasn't an issue. It was really more the speed.
The speed,
Um,
I all right. Yeah.
so speed, I didn't know then what I know now. Now it's crazy if I had Parisi training, how much faster could I have been? Because the crazy thing is I had a pro day in 97 at the Las Vegas Bowl. It was an all-star game for amateur football.
Yeah.
Put up some good numbers and like they go, son, man, these are great numbers. How old are you? I go, I'm 27. So, well, really appreciate your for your time. Have a great day. Wait, you that was it? Yeah, that was my tryout. There was no, you're too old.
Yeah.
But then fast forward that almost a decade later, I went through Parisi training. And at 38, I posted my best 10, 20 in pro agility that I ever did in my life. Now I never really wanted to run a 40 again because I was too paranoid to pull a hamstring. But my 10, 20 and pro agility were better at 38 than they were at 27.
Yeah.
You know? So that showed me that a lot of this it's a skill. And that's why I picked up Parisi because I want to teach kids the skill of speed, the skill of agility. I mean, the skill of strength. Those are all skills that can be taught. Some people are just blessed with more genetic genetic makeup than others. I mean, if both your parents were D1 sprinters, you're probably going to be fast.
Right.
If dad's 6'9" and mom's 6'7", you're probably going to be tall. You know,
Yeah.
so I just looked at it any way I could further my education, whether it was nutrition or training or recovery, whatever it was, that's what I tried to do. And which just kind of led me down the path to Parisi. And I opened the 13th franchise back in 2006. Um, and now we've got over 130 locations worldwide. And I've stayed with the company because I opened the franchise in 2014. I was invited onto the master coaching staff, and that was the same year I went through a divorce. And the next year, I sold my gym to my ex-wife. But I became an educator, and I'd never. I mean, I always loved coaching, but educating coaches just became like, wow, this is like next level stuff. I was just it just
Yeah.
so it was just like I kind of finally realized what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm an educator. I am an educator. And
Yeah.
whether I was coaching or teaching in my business or teaching my staff, but now coaching coaches just really that was really just the icing on the cake for me. And I really haven't looked back. And now I'm in my what 12th year as a master coach and my fifth year on the corporate team for the Parisi Speed School. And my title now is director of business development. So it's really helping gym owners and coaches take their business to the next level. Along that way, my mom retired and she had given up a kidney to a family member. And when she did that, she got very inactive and got pretty heavy. And I just kind of remember walking. I was at her house. She comes walking down the stairs, and she goes, I've been thinking about I should hire a trainer. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. And she goes, would you train me? And I'm sitting there going, okay, do I want to train my mom? And I'm
Yeah.
sitting there thinking, like, no, I really don't want to train my mom, but I've got a coach that I would pay to train my mom, which Nick Rush, you're a saint because you trained my mom for years. And Nick's one of my better friends. So it's like he gets it. And he trained my mom and she started losing weight and she lost like, I don't know, 40 pounds the first year. And then her thing was she'd retired and she's like, who trains the old people in your gym? I'm like, well, we do. But she goes, well, I don't see any of you training anybody. So I think she was what 62 at the time, 63. So I mean, she's very intelligent lady. She just, well, I'm going to get NASM certified. So she goes in NASM certified. She goes through the Parisi certification. And again, she's 16-year-old, 62-year-old lady. So, but my mom's tough as she's very tough. She's a tough lady. So she perseveres through that, gets certified, and then just really kind of goes in and starts training what she called the older folks, people over 55. And she developed quite the following, and she called it senior strong. Um, and she just loved it. I mean, and when she died in 2016, she was actually still doing senior strong with a couple of my other coaches who opened a facility in Kokomo after I left, and they loved it. And then when she died, they just kept it going, you know. And then along the way, when that happened, like I just wanted to kind of help. I just kind of when I saw that community, no one wants to train. You're old. Go ladies, go swimming and do a pink dumbbell. Like they're they're old. They're not dead. You know,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
can do everything we can do. It's like, and you look at the research, it's like strength train, reactive training. Why do people over 70 when they fall and break a hip, why do they die? Because they're no longer mobile. But like, can't we just keep them strong?
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to lose strength. Father Time's undefeated, and it's going to happen. But if you train, and the science now is just like you can get stronger at any age. Now it's easier to obviously maintain strength. So now I'm at 57, soon to be 58. I'm like, I'm trying to maintain strength. So I understand it. But when you bring someone who's 60 who's never really strength trained, they start strength training, it's a game changer.
Hmm.
When you get these little old ladies, like I put my carry-on in the overhead bin by myself, or I broke a wheel and I could carry my own suitcase. I picked up my grandkid. I got up and down off the ground, you
It's
know.
really empowering. Yeah.
It's so empowering. It's like then they like, hey, I stepped off the curb and I almost fell, but then I caught myself. And it's like
Yeah.
that felt good because all those landings you had to teach us to land both unilaterally and bilaterally. She goes, that was a game changer. So
Yeah.
we grew Silver Strong and kind of put a name to it and called it Silver Strong. And I kind of laughed because I made the age 55. So when I turned 55, all my staff's like, so are you going to start doing Silver Strong now? I'm like, guys, suck it, man. No, I'm not. But
I
it's
mean,
just,
sorry to interrupt, but there's really I think if you look at today, there's a hesitancy to even give older adults a barbell or have them jump like you just talked about. I mean, there was a video I saw a few days ago. A coach had their older athlete jumping on a box on a plyo box, and people were kind of weighing in the comments like, "What are you doing? You're gonna." They need to learn how to jump, and they need to learn how to maintain balance, just like every
yes.
single other adult out there.
Well, the landing position is huge. So, like, we need to teach that. What, we're going to lose attributes. You're not going to be as fast. You're not going to be as explosive, but it doesn't mean not train it. It means actually train it more.
Hmm.
Okay. I think when you look at that, when you start getting these older athletes to train like athletes again, because everyone forgets we're all athletes. We're all athletes. I mean, 70-year-olds can be an athlete. I mean, one of my ladies, and she started training. She's, I want to do a powerlifting meet again. I haven't done one in like 20 years, but I always just did like the bench and deadlift because I couldn't squat. So I'm like, well, let's do the whole meet. So this is a lady who's in her 70s, squatting over 200 pounds, pulling 300 pounds, and benching like 120 pounds. And you know what? She's out there getting after it. She doesn't make excuses up. I'm old. No, I'm just going to go train. And
Hmm.
other ladies and older guys saw that and they kind of followed suit. So I don't think we need to put a barbell. Again, a barbell is a tool.
Sure.
I think we have a big toolbox. So, if an older individual can't squat properly, we'll teach them to squat properly. Then maybe give them a dumbbell, a light dumbbell, and do a goblet squat. Then we can progress them to something else. Does everyone need to do a back squat? No. Does everyone need to do a barbell deadlift? Absolutely not. Do they need to hinge? Yes. Do they need to squat? Yes. Do they need to work unilaterally and do single limb lifts? Of course. It's just what's your big KPIs? How do you put it together? How do you make it systematic so that they're making progression and they're safe? Number one, I don't think there's any bad movements. I mean, oh, the squat's bad for your back or deadlift's bad for your back. Well, no, being weak is bad for your back.
Right.
Being overweight's bad for your back. Being sedentary is bad for your back. Being strong is, I don't see being strong as ever being a bad attribute. Now, as an athlete, a younger athlete who's still playing competitive sports, if you hypertrophy too much, maybe you lose speed and that's not good. But when you're looking as older adults, you know, being independent is huge. I mean, I laugh because we all see it. Like I only want to make one trip in from carrying the grocery bags,
Right.
or I had a silver strong lady who's 65 years old. Her husband wasn't home, and she had to carry in two, you know, 20-kilo bags of water softener salt. She carried it down. Chad, I just walked down the stairs with him. It didn't even faze me. I didn't think about it till I was done. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't do that before. I've been strength trained. Now I can do it. And the crazy thing is when you, especially with the ladies, I've had some ladies who are full blown osteoporosis. 6 months later,
Mhm.
they're in complete remission because they're lifting weights,
Right.
and not just like, hey, go swim in the pool and ride on that little bike. Don't go real hard and use these little 2 pound pink dumbbells. Like, guys, they're you're not going to break them. Now, I think you have to be smart. You have to do a
Hmm.
lot of warm up. You have to have a general warm up, a specific warm up, readiness to get their body to move and then get them moving and get them stronger. It's amazing when you see an older person that's just, well, it's no different than the little kids or adults, but like there's just something about, your grandma can now, your grandma might like one of the kids like my grandma deadlifts 300 pounds, you know, which is, I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Now,
Bragging rights.
do they have to say that that was from with a high handle trap bar from 15 inches? It doesn't matter. It's
Right.
like we're not those from a metric standpoint. Are you better than you were? So I just look at it. Did your vital statistics get better? Did your, if your osteo have osteoporosis or osteopenic, is that getting better? Are we
Hmm.
stopping that in its tracks? Can we stop that in its tracks? And all that's possible. And it doesn't, and again, people don't have to live in the gym. 2 times a week with strength training for most people is enough, maybe
Hmm.
3 times, but then get your butt out, go for a bike ride, go for a walk, do the stuff that we should be doing. I gotta look like, I don't know, 70's not that far around the corner for me. So I'm like, I want to be able to go on vacations. I want to be able to walk mountains. I want to be able to climb a hill. I want to be able to walk for 10 miles in a day because I'm on a trip to Italy and I get to see everything that's cool.
And isn't that the whole point? I mean, quality of life and making sure that we
Yeah.
can live how we want to live for as long as we can.
Yeah. I think that's the number one goal for me because people are like, what's your goal now? It's like, well, for the longest time, was a strength athlete was to be strong. Now it's like, I still want to stay strong. But at the same point, I just want to be able to do cool stuff.
Hmm.
And again, I've lived a different life. My body has been a combative tool, a tool that I've used it so many different ways in strength sports, and I've got a lot of injury, little things that are injured along the way because you're pushing your body.
Hmm.
Now, am I any different than any other 57-year-old? Well, I'm in better shape. I'm probably not gonna, there's stuff that's not gonna affect me like it's gonna affect normal people, but we all end up in the same spot.
Yeah,
I
that's
just want
true.
to make with my time while I'm here. I want to be able to do stuff I want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have to be able to squat 800 pounds? No. You have to be able to flip a car, pull a semi? No. Well, in my sport, I had to. Do I need to do that now? No. I just want to feel good and be healthy enough to do the stuff I want. So I think that's what every adult wants, and especially, and I look, I think the one untapped market for seniors, everyone's afraid to train them.
Hmm.
Oh, I don't want to hurt. You're not going to hurt them. They're not little fragile China dolls, man. They're human beings, and it's like, how do you train a 7-year-old or a 7-year-old? It's the same stuff.
Hmm.
Find a variant that makes them successful day. Like, I might start a deadlift. Like, hey, we're going to start a deadlift, but what are you deadlifting? You're hinging with a PVC pipe that weighs nothing. Now, does that hinge look good? Well, once that hinge look good, can we load it? Then
Hmm.
what do we do? Now we hand them a 15-pound bar, then a 30-pound bar, then a 45-pound bar. Next thing you know, they're doing deadlifts off the floor with 135 pounds. They think they're the king of the world. Now, the thing is, if you started with the PVC pipe, now you're doing 135, you are king of the world. You're doing
Yeah.
awesome. So just meet everyone where they're at and develop them to the best of your ability in a safe manner. So I look like this. If we make them less likely to get hurt and they perform better in daily tasks, isn't that the job? It's not
That's the
rocket
job.
science.
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of us get hung up too, is just we're thinking about that end goal, but we just don't think about all the steps that it takes to get there. And that's really what it's about. You just have to walk the journey, right? You can't prevent yourself from starting just because you're worried about what it might look like.
I think the hardest step's the first one. And you know
Hmm.
what? For a lot of people, it's this: go hire a professional. You know, and this day and age, I mean, it's like if you go back 30 years ago, people were reading books, magazines. Now everything's at our fingertip on the internet. But now it's so much. I don't know if I would say misinformation or disinformation, but there's all these people that are trying to sell you something. Good
Hmm.
coaches don't try to sell you anything. They try to sell you on the lifestyle, strength train, move, take recovery seriously, sleep better, drink your water, eat real food. I mean, for crying out loud, man, like look at the food. Our food's terrible. But like when I tell people, it's like, well, what should I eat? I said, well, if it has one ingredient in the box, that's probably what you should eat. If you open
Right.
the box and you like Robalicious bonafide, like you can't pronounce it, like that's a good indicator you don't eat it. So like, wow, here's an apple. Well, that's an apple. Here's
Yeah.
rice. Here's beef. Here's vegetable. Here's you have a pound of broccoli.
Keep it
Now
simple. Don't
you
overthink
keep
it.
it, yeah, don't overthink it. Keep it simple. And the thing is, like, but I want taste. Fine. Go to dinner out at a restaurant 4 or 5 times a week, whatever your shtick is, order what you want. Otherwise, just be disciplined and eat the same thing day in and day out. As boring as it is,
Mhm.
and if you really round up every person out there, you take 100 people, they're eating 80% of the same thing every day, anyways.
Yep.
Just it's bad. But
Yep.
when you switch it over, it's like, hey, in the morning, I'm going to have, whatever again, I'm not going to sit here and what's the best macro? Is keto good? Is carnivore good? Is carbs bad? Or carbs good? Is fiber? He's like, guys, here's the thing: eat natural food. You're probably going to be okay. Okay. How many calories? I don't know. How many grams of protein, carbohydrates, and fat? We can sit down and look at that. What do you want to do? Hey, I'm totally into fasting. Okay, can we make fasting work? Yeah, you work. You eat in a window. Could you eat keto? Yeah, sure, you can do keto. Can you eat carbs? Carbs are not evil. You know, I just it's but once it's finding something that people will actually comply with. If
So
they
more
want to,
diet. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah,
It's like being diet agnostic, but really, what's the goal? What's your goal and the outcome you're looking for? Right.
right. I mean, if you look at it, well, throughout history, are we carbohydrate driven? Well, our brain is, our nervous system is. Can our body make carbohydrates out of fat? Out of fat? No. Can it make it out of protein? Yes. Can we get derive energy from fat? Yes. Can we create ketone bodies, which we burn in lieu of carbohydrates if they're not there? Yeah. Can we
Hmm.
live? I mean, again, God in his infinite wisdom created this human body for survival. We can survive in any climate. We can live in the desert. We can live in the Arctic. Look at what people eat in the Arctic: whale blubber and protein. It's not like they have a short window of vegetables and or fruits. So
Hmm.
you look at that. What's the Mediterranean diet like? Totally different. Does it all work? Yeah. At the end of the day, calories in, calories out. It's kind of hard to SECO. You can't dispute it because it's there. It's the science. I
Yep.
think what was the Super Size Me, the movie from like 10 years ago,
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
guy ate
Yeah.
nothing but McDonald's and got fat. Well, then someone else did it and ate nothing but junk food and lost weight
Lost weight. Yep.
because they were in caloric deficit. You know, so it, it's pretty simple. It's just understanding this underlying psychology of it. For me, like I dieted for a bodybuilding contest in college and I got down to like 3% body fat. Well, every time I've dieted ever since, I get about 8% body fat and I freak out. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to do this anymore. This sucks. I'm terrible. I'm dying. I can't eat what I want. So I've never been able to duplicate that again. Now, is
Yeah.
that I think that's more for me psychological. Could I make myself do it? I just don't care.
Yeah.
8% body fat. Why do I need to be leaner? You know, right now I can see my abs. I'm probably 13, 14%. My cholesterol, all my numbers are fine. Do I care if I've got abs? No, I just really don't. Is that a sign
Yep.
of, I don't know. If you ask the pro strongman, is like a sign of abs or a sign that you don't eat enough. It's what J, JF Carone said at World Strongest Man, because abs are just a sign you don't eat enough. You know, um, I think for most people, just find something that you can do every day and do it and live life. If you want to have a
Yeah.
glass of wine, have a glass of wine. You want to eat a cheeseburger? There's nothing wrong with cheeseburger. You can't
Just
live
have
off
some
cheeseburgers
moderation.
and French fries. But
Just gotta have
yes,
moderation.
moderation.
Yeah.
But we're Americans, so we don't do anything with moderation
Right.
because we're in the West. We take these we cross context a lot. More is
Yep.
better. No, it's not.
Hey, talk to me a little bit about Parisi. We talked about Parisi. You mentioned Parisi Speed School earlier, and I've obviously been looking at the program and going through some of the readings and materials that I've signed up with y'all on, and I'm quite impressed. I mean, having a strength and conditioning background myself, I mean, it's a great refresher, but there's also this ideology, this methodology behind what Parisi provides. And you mentioned it earlier. Hey, when I was, your speed and performance at one stage of your life versus after your implementation of Parisi, type programs, what was the difference for you? What do you think the difference is with the
Well,
Parisi side?
I think systemized and growing up again, this I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so it's like, back then you're either fast or you're not fast.
Hmm.
You can't get faster. And that's what I was told that something you can't get faster. You're either fast or you're not fast. Well, was everyone just strong or not strong? Why do we strength? And then this is my 15, 16, 17-year-old logic, which I don't think is too far off. But it's like if we strength train to get stronger, why can't we speed train to get faster?
Mm.
Well, there's no way to do it. And, for the longest time, okay, well, they just said there wasn't. So I would go out and run, but I didn't know anything about running technique. So my running technique was horrible. I stood up to, I didn't master the mechanics of acceleration or top speed or multi-directional speed. Now I moved fairly well, just naturally. Now I could train it and maybe got a little bit better, but, at the times, like, how do we, when we train speed? Well, we're going to do wind sprints at the end of practice. So after 3 hours of practice, now we're doing wind sprints. Dude,
Mm.
that was conditioning. We didn't get faster. We just got better shape. And there's nothing wrong with being in better shape. I won't ever say not, but like we didn't get faster. And I got to college and, we did sprints, but they didn't teach anything about technique. And then after I got out, I ran sprints, but then I really got into conjugate or the west side barbell stuff and
Yeah.
started really using a lot of that and dynamic effort. I did get faster because I was putting more force on the ground. I had a better rate of force production, but my mechanics were still off. My
Hmm.
mechanics were bad. When I went through Parisi, and I laugh about it now because I went through Parisi. It's like, oh my God, this is how you're supposed to sprint. Wow, like my technique changed. And it's like I just got faster.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, how the hell am I getting fast? I'm 38 years old. I am not supposed to be getting faster. I just got faster. Like I said, I ran my best times at 38 than I ever did in my life. Um, Now, again, you're 38. You're kind of that's that top end of athleticism. So I was able to hold on to my athleticism for a significantly long time. Um, but the Parisi was just so systemized. And then when I looked at it, how I implemented it with my own children, well, when you start a kid right at 7 and you teach them how to move properly, they maintain that their entire life.
Hmm.
So all three of my kids went through Parisi training. Um, were they totally into it? Probably not. They're kids. Like now, I couldn't imagine. Like I literally wish if my 57-year-old self could train my 12-year-old self. Wow, that would be a cool experiment. That would be fun. I look at my kids; they learned it, they embraced it, they lived it. Um, it made such a difference in their lives, and then just training other kids. And I look at all the
Hmm.
kids I've trained in the last 30 plus years, and strength training definitely helps. But like once I really put together the Parisi stuff, it really took my athletes to a whole nother level. Now, in the last 5 or 6 years, Bill's really gone down the fascial, really into the deep diving into fascia for about close to a decade now, but really hammering it home with us in the network um, for like the last 6, 7 years. And I think that's making a big difference because now you're able to bring in external constraints like a Viper or a tidal tank or other tools to bring in that starts to train athletes not only in the sagittal plane but also the transverse plane and the frontal plane. Because
Hmm.
let's just face it, when you go to the gym, everything's in the sagittal plane, especially the
Yep.
anterior portion of the sagittal plane. A lot of people don't do the posterior portion of the sagittal plane, but they're totally sagittal, and then it's totally bilateral. Well, how do you move, dude? You
Hmm.
don't move both legs at the same time. They're independent of each other. Same with your arms. So we look at a lot of the stuff that Bill has implemented in is fascial training because the fascia, it's kind of an untapped. Everyone's tapped into the nervous system, to the muscular skeletal system, to the respiratory system, but who is tapping into fascia? And when we started really tapping into it, there's a big difference in that. Now, is it like some people say this is the best thing ever? It's like anyone who goes, well, 5 times 5 and kettlebells are the greatest thing, and barbells are the greatest thing, and dumbbells. No, they're all tools. So is
Right.
fascial training better than everything else? No, it's part of the process. Is it 10%, 20%, 30%? It depends on the athlete. If you've got, I don't know, you look at some people who are just fast twitchy. Like look at LeBron James. He's more of a metabolic athlete. He strength
Yep.
trains. He's more metabolic. Kevin Durant's more of a twitch guy.
Hmm.
He's leaner, skinnier, but he's bouncy. He jumps like so. You got to take the athlete where they're at. So
Yep.
if you got an athlete that's incredibly explosive, keep training the explosive. Don't get them too damn big because then they get slow.
Yeah.
But then now you got a skinny kid who needs to put on size. Well, do you need to strength train and do a little more hypertrophy training? But at that same time, I think what ends up happening is non-conventionalisms. Like you're strength training the off-season of football, you just strength train. And the coach, like, well, you know what? Doc, you need to drink a gallon of milk a day every day and do your squats. And now you gained 40 pounds in the off-season, you came back and you're slower on the field.
Yep.
You need to be sprinting year round. You need to be strength training year round. Okay. Now, does it need to be ultra intense during season? No, it's all about maintenance at that point. Does it always need to be heavy weights? No, you need to move light weights fast. That's where we've really delved into velocity based training and reactive strength index and really looking at those numbers. And any number you can record, you can improve.
Mm.
So I think that's where we have to look at. Like, I had a kid who's like, "Well, coach, when will I be able to slam dunk?" I go, when you can deadlift 500 pounds and squat 400 pounds, you'll be able to dunk." Well, the kid did that and he was able to dunk, but it wasn't the 500 pounds; it was the force he was putting in the ground, which
Right.
allowed him to show his rate of force production. So it's a lot of it's just like when we look at what we're training with athletes, what are we selecting to get them to where they want to be? And again, kids want to go to the weight room, they want to get big and jacked. I get it. Every cartoon is a big jack guy. Every comic book is a big jack guy. Okay, or girl. I mean, they're all muscular. Okay. And I think that's cool. Trust me, I'm a meathead. I love that. But like when it comes to sports, if you're not fast, you're not eating. And if you're not
Hmm.
fast, you're not playing. And at the end of the day, it's about playing. So I thought about this long and hard. What as parents, what do we want? We just want our kids to be happy, safe, and successful. And that's really where Parisi comes in. Here's a model of training and then a business system if you're in the business side. So we've got training, we got business, but here's the training, and it's all about developing you both linearly and multi-directional speed, you know, and then looking at strength training as a part of it. But everyone's like, what's the most important? Because I had somebody, what if I had to choose, what's the most important thing to do? I'm like, wow, is it strength training? Is it mobility? Is it rest and recovery? It's like you have to do it all,
Yeah.
but is one thing better, inherently better? Would I have to say, well, strength training? Well, I mean, if you're in season and you're a volleyball player and you got practice 3 days a week, you play 2 games a week, how much running and jumping do we really need to do? You're doing that. I would strength train during season.
Yep.
Now, subsequently, it's off season. Now it's time to get strong. So now I would probably strength train and do my movement. And then at the same point, are we looking at our nutrition? Are we looking at our sleep? Are we looking at our hydration? Is there stuff we can do recovery wise for athletes to recover better? Because everyone wants the newest, latest, greatest. Like, well, training's the big picture, Oh, but I want to get an ice tub. Ice tubs are so great. I want to get an ice tub. Well, yeah, you got an A in ice tub, but you got an F in training. You still got an
Yep.
F.
Isn't that the way it's going now? It seems like everybody's so focused on the minutia and the weeds, and they're forgetting the actual meat and potatoes of what we should be doing
Right.
sometimes.
100%. I really think that that's where we're at because everyone, I just get parents coming, it's like, I just saw this Bobby Stroop video when he was training Patrick Mahomes a couple years ago. And I think my son should be doing this. Your son's 11 and he's not Patrick Mahomes. And if he was Patrick Mahomes and he was 11, you know what he'd be doing? Exactly what we're doing. If you don't believe
Hmm.
me, ask Bobby Stroop himself. He'll tell you. Um, I think the most advanced, we do a lot of advanced material. We deliver it. Most of our kids don't need advanced material.
Hmm.
Most of them just need to master the basics. And I'm a big fan. Master the basics. You're going to be successful at whatever you do. It doesn't matter what subject it is in life. You know, if you master the basics and you put attention to detail, you're going to be successful. Now, if you get to that, you're the upper echelon and you're super advanced, yes, use some of the advanced tools. Most people don't need that. Even kids that I prep for the combine, they don't need advanced stuff. They just
Yeah.
really don't. They need to really master down the basics because you get to college, they forget. If you're a D1 strength coach, hey, just don't screw them up. You probably did your job. Let's make sure they're available to play on Saturday. You did your job. So
Yeah.
everyone's so worried about pushing them and getting someone hurt, especially and also in the NFL or major or professional sports. And again, I think sports science is huge. I think there's a lot of data we can collect. But damn, sometimes you just got to work hard. And I think we forget that we try to find every way to not work hard, but it's just like there's just something about pushing that set really hard and what you learn about yourself. I mean, nine times out of ten, it's like lifting weight. I mean, someone asked me, "How do you know if it's heavy enough?" I go, "If you look at it and your kind of butt kind of puckers, that's heavy because you're a little scared. If you're not a
Yeah.
little scared, you're probably not training heavy enough or hard enough. There should be some trepidation when you
I
go to the
mean,
gym."
I'm gonna have to absolutely agree with that. And speaking as someone who's gone through a doctoral program, and obviously I love academics and the research side of it. And sometimes I get frustrated. It's like, you know what? We can argue over the nitty gritty and the nuances of the 1% of the 99% that we should be already doing anyways. But if
Right.
you're not training hard enough and if you're not putting the effort forward, what are you doing? I mean, I think that's where I think a lot of people are trying to find that 1% to avoid the other 99% of the hard work they need to be doing.
It, I, it all comes to the hard work. That 1%, that's the 1% again. If you get an A on the 1%, but you flunked the 99%, you still flunked. And
Yeah.
that's what people don't realize. It's like, what does that look like? I go, how much do you really need to train? When people ask me, what do you really, when it really gets down to it, how much I go, dude, if you strength train twice a week, full body, focusing on the big movements. So you're going to squat and you're going to hinge, and that now squats and hinges could be bilateral or unilateral. You have to do both. You
Hmm.
really need, and a lot of people need more unilateral because they have a bilateral strength deficit. So we need to
Hmm.
really focus on that. And then we look at you got a horizontal push, a horizontal pull, a vertical push, vertical pull, and you look at core. Core's anterior, posterior, rotational, and lateral. Okay. So how do we train the core? And then I look at loaded movements. What are we doing for loaded movement? Like loaded carries. Pick stuff up and carry it. Farmers
Hmm.
walks, waiters walks, front carries, yoke walks, any of that stuff, sled work, sled push, sled drag. All that stuff plays into training. And then you're looking, that's where we come in with like the Vipers and the tidal tanks. You build that stuff in multi-directional, omnidirectional loaded movements. Now, if I get a 10-pound tidal tank, you might not think that's that much, but like you get that water sloshing around, it kind of kicks your ass,
Especially
you
on
know?
unilateral stuff.
Right. So you
Yeah.
let's say you're lunging with an uppercut. Well, man, dude, your whole body is working. Now,
Hmm.
did I say not to squat? No, I didn't. But build that stuff in there where you can actually start to integrate the body together. And I think that's what ends up happening for a lot of people. They squat, but then they don't sprint, so their sprint sucks.
Yeah.
If you squat and sprint, you're probably okay. You got to be moving. You have to continue to move. Now, what I see is a lot of it, myself included. Once you get past athletics, when's the last time you sprinted? When's the last time you jumped?
Yep.
When's the last time I mean, can you run a 5K? How many people in America cannot run a 5K? Okay. Or how many of them can't walk a 5K? They get too tired. So it's like that stuff those are kind of basic things you should be able to do. Jumping, do I need to jump to a 40-inch box anymore? No, I don't. And can I? No, I can't. Would I like to be able to? Yeah, but like there's I mean, I've 45 years in the trenches. There's a few, there's a few things that don't work like they used to. Now, granted, if you look at across the population, 57, can people do what no, they can't.
Yeah.
So I look at I'm probably still in the top 99th percentile, but there's also stuff that I can't do anymore.
Well, would you
And I
say
know
there's
that.
an opportunity? Would you? I mean, you mentioned your mom earlier, and she went through the Parisi system. But I mean, in terms of other older adults, let's put it back to that conversation for a second. How much opportunity is there, or how much have you already incorporated with other older adults into some of the speed, agility type
Oh, you
training. Yeah.
you put all that in because they have to do it. Like if you, it's funny, you come to my last facility, which is Parisi Speed School in Columbia, Missouri. We'd have silver strong athletes with out there at the same time as kids. When you look at it, it's like, well, they're doing the same warm up. Well, we're all human beings.
Hmm.
So, now, well, grandma's squat's not like junior squat because grandma's got some mobility issues, but she's still squatting, you know. Grandma still deadlifts. Grandma still presses overhead. Now, do I have her with a barbell? I don't have to. And again, everyone gets fixated like the barbell is the best tool. It's a freaking tool. Don't say there's no tool that's more superior than another tool. It's the tool. You got to use the tool you need for the job you have in hand. So it's
Hmm.
like if you look at an older adult, if they just goblet squat, they can't do anything. But now you teach them to squat, and then they teach them the goblet squat. Now you add a little extra load. Well, they're getting stronger. Do I need to put a barbell on their back? Is that
Hmm.
even safe? No, I mean, we can sit here and debate it. It's like, if I can get it on their back and it doesn't hurt, yeah, we can probably back squat. But do they need to back squat?
Yep.
Do they need to do a front squat? Can we do a front rack lunge? Can I put a weight vest on them? Doesn't matter what I put on. Can we get them just build work capacity?
Hmm.
They start like I always laugh because I used to start. We have the 3-inch pad. Everyone starts jumping on a 3-inch pad. Well, that's kind of easy. Okay, let's go to a 6-inch pad. That was a
Yeah.
little harder. Now we go to a 9-inch pad. Oh, I can't do that. Well, why not? Well, that's too high. Okay, well, let's just go back to the 6-inch pad. And then when they walk to get a drink of water, I go get some, 10-pound bumper plates and slide underneath there. They're an inch higher. So now it's now no longer 6 inch, it's a 7 inch. Well, that looks higher. Well, it's the same pad. How could it be higher? Well, they kind of
Yeah.
get it. They catch you after a while. And then I'll flip it over like you just jumped to a 7-inch pad. No, no, I didn't. Yeah, you did. Yeah,
Yeah.
you did.
Yeah.
It's just finding a way and then getting them to believe in themselves,
Yeah.
and making sure they're safe. So a lot of times, like, yes, I might hold my client's hand as they jump. Is that the end of the
So
world?
what? Yeah. So what?
And then once then they're so confident in themselves that they can do it themselves. I did it myself. We had a lady, she trained with one of my other coaches. She had a lot of health issues. I mean, she had a tube, she had to walk around with a tube in her oxygen tank. But she's out there doing farmers walks, sled pushes. Our coach is carrying but you know what? She went from not being able to do a lot of activities where she was so much stronger. She could go on walks again with her wife. She could go on vacations again with her wife, where she had a 3, 4 year period of time where she couldn't do that.
Yeah.
She got her life back. I mean, if that doesn't make, I mean, people ask what motivates you to come to work every day. It's like, dude, when you see that smile on that person's face or that kid's face, or the kid made the team, or the mom and dad come in and like, Junior doesn't want to say anything to you, but I want you to know he made the team and he's playing, he's so happy, or they got better grades. I don't care what it is. It's like when you start doing hard stuff in the gym, everything else in life kind of gets easier because we've kind of got life used to be hard. Life is so easy. We live in a nation where life is easy. Everything is
Hmm.
easy. And people forgot what it's like to do hard stuff, and then they can't do hard stuff. When they start doing hard stuff in the gym, it just kind of makes like everything else is easier. Because I know
Well, I
when
think you're. Oh,
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, I think you're really kind of touching on the power of coaching, is what I'm hearing. I mean, like,
Yeah,
people have these restrictions, mental restrictions. We all do. I mean, I have them too, obviously. But
yeah.
when you have a good coach, that coach can bring out of you the things and overcome things that you're not even sure you can really do. So what does that look like in terms of your coaching philosophy? I mean, how do you
It's
approach that?
honestly, if I could say one thing, and I don't know if this is something that can be taught or it's more innate. I think there's some people have certain abilities they were given like at birth. I mean, again, leadership, most kids don't lead naturally. You have to teach them. I've been one that leadership was always natural to me.
Mm.
Like something needs to be done and no one's willing to do it. Okay, I'm gonna do it. No one wanted to say anything. I'm gonna say something. So I look at that like we can teach, and then from a coaching standpoint, a lot of what coaching is, in my opinion, is me getting my client to believe in themselves. And they'll never believe in themselves unless you believe in them.
Mm.
And, when you come at it from that angle, it's like, what can I do? It's more like, what can't you do? We got to switch that. We got to switch that paradigm and that mind thought. And again, I think what Parisi does, one of our main modules in our certification is the power of positive coaching. It's like,
Mm,
what do we do I look at this. There's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's 168 hours a week. Okay. How many hours am I going to be with my client? 3 or 4? Well, they're not screwing up when they're with me, right? So they swung by McDonald's on their own. It's to get them
yeah.
to quit swinging by McDonald's on their own. They start to they start making better choices. And when they start making choices to come to the gym, it makes the other choices outside the gym like, well, you know what? Is me drinking 3 glasses of wine tonight for dinner is not going to get me closer to my goal or farther away. Well, I'm gonna have a good time, so maybe that's part of it. I want you to have a good
Mm,
time, but then you get to the point where like that's going to hurt me for tomorrow's workout, so I'm not going to do it. So they start to make better choices, and they come and have a better workout. And then when you start seeing whether it's adults or kids, they get these workouts. What are they more like? They're more confident. And really,
mhm,
I laugh because Bill had a lot of choices. It's the Parisi Speed School. Okay, school being the operative word because we expect you to learn. Now, in my mind, it should be the Parisi School of Self-Esteem and Self-Confidence because that's really what we trade in. But that doesn't get kids excited. Kids understand speed and parents understand speed. So we call it speed school. But when you really get down to it, why are parents bringing their kids to me? Or why do adults come to me? They lack the self-esteem. They lack the self-confidence. So when you bring a kid in, they start training, they just become more confident. They have better self-esteem. Same with adults. There's no difference. There's no difference between a 7-year-old, 7-year-old. There really isn't. They
yeah.
feel the same. We again maybe well the 7-year-old might not. They're not as pliable and elastic. They can't bounce off the floor. I fall down now. It's like oh my god that hurt. Kids fall down the ground. It's like they bounce back up and they're back running. But you look at it when they start doing things hard, when adults start doing things harder, things they don't think they can do, and then they do it. It's like man, I did it. And then it's like I don't know what the right word is. It's just like snowball effect. I did that and now I know I can do more. So
Yeah.
they start to believe in themselves. That's where the magic's at. I mean, that's really where the
Self-efficacy.
magic's at.
Yeah.
Is just really getting these people to believe, whether it's any adult, any person, and as coaches, and it's like you hit the nail on the head, coaches. Because a lot of people are like, well, it's a personal trainer. I'm sorry, dogs have trainers, horses have trainers, human beings have coaches. So
Mm,
I don't ever, so people will call me a trainer, and I'm not going to correct them because I know where they're coming from. But I'm a coach, and coaching is simple. In the term of European, the coach was a carriage that took one person from A to B. And it was actually
mm,
made in a town called Coach. Okay, so what was a coach? A coach was someone who took you from A to B that you couldn't get yourself there themselves. That's what a coach does. Whether it's a business coach, a nutrition coach, a sports performance coach, they're going to take you from here to there. And coaching and teaching are in my opinion, the same thing. Because a lot of and coaches come out of and where we just like I'm teaching sports performance, but am I not instilling these kids? And again, what do we use? We use Parisi significantly uses sports performance training to deliver lifestyle.
mm,
So you're thinking, what do you mean lifestyle? Well, okay, what's work ethic? What's effort? What's discipline? What's teamwork? What's time management? These are life skills that become part of a lifestyle. But if you don't teach kids these life
mm.
skills, which we don't, I mean, the bane of our society is right here. It's a
Mm,
damn phone. People are
yep.
stupid because they can't think because they use their phone all the time. They're on it all the time. Well, I had a kid go, I just don't have enough time. I'm like, really? This was in a seminar. He goes, I don't have enough time. Okay. Pull your phone out. Scroll all the way to the left. How many hours a day are you on your phone? He goes, eight and a half. I go, say it louder. 8.5. I go, no, say it loud so everyone can hear it. 8.5. I go, so you're on your phone for 8.5 hours a day, 7 days a week, bro. That's over 56 hours. I think we can find your time.
Yeah.
Just put your phone down for a freaking hour. It's amazing what you'll get done in an hour. It's like, again, I get it. Finger information's at our fingertips, but it's like you get this dopamine hit, like ding, ding. Oh my God, I gotta answer my phone.
Yeah.
I mean, I was laughed because this is a deal I made with my kids. Like, okay, now they're all grown adults. We go to dinner. It's like, all right, everyone puts their phone in the middle of the table. And the
Yeah.
first person who answers their phone buys the meal. It's awesome. Normally it's dad buying all the meals, but one time my oldest boy and the phones are there and you can hear his phone's just moving all over the place, buzzing. And we had finished the meal. We're getting ready. The check had just, well, it hasn't came yet. He couldn't take it. He reached over and grabs his phone. And I start laughing. He goes, "What's so funny?" I go, "Look what's in your hand." He goes, "Oh shit!" And so the lady's bringing up the lady's bringing up the receipt so we can check out. She goes, "Well, I've got your check." I'm like, "Well, I'm kind of thinking that cheesecake looks pretty good. What do you kids want some dessert tonight?" Because Reese is buying that. He's like, "Dad, seriously?" And I go, "Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You screwed up. Who doesn't answer their phone when we're at dinner together anymore."
Yeah.
But it became one that's like, that became a joke, but it's like everyone wants to be on their phone. You just put your phone down and be here for an hour. Be present.
Access to the information, but yet not really utilizing the information that's out there a lot of times too.
I don't know. People ask me at the gym all the time, what's the key? I said, number one is consistency.
Hmm.
And then if I literally I go down every day I go to the gym, I will take a picture of someone on their phone for like 15 minutes. Guy's been on his phone for 15 minutes and he wants the audacity to ask me what's the key to making progress? I don't know, maybe put your phone down.
Yeah.
There's a whole article I want to totally write on that about, the bane in the society. I'm like, they're on their phone, or then they got a damn tripod shooting their workout, which
Yeah.
I record lifts for my coach. That's fine. But I don't need to record 60 minutes of me fiddle farting around the gym doing really nothing. And then
Yeah.
I'm putting it up. So like there's a lady, she's an IFBB pro. She's at the gym today. And her husband's there shot a bunch of videos. Okay, she's an IFBB pro. She has a website, she sells training, she does all that stuff. That's fine. That's how she makes money. She's an influencer. Well, everyone wants to be an influencer, but no one's making any money influencing. I
Yeah.
mean, it's funny. Look in our sport. I do podcasts all the time. It's like, well, I never see your where's your influencer? I'm not an influencer, dude. I'm a coach. I'm too busy coaching to actually take the time to make influential shit.
Yeah.
So now stuff like this, is this influencing? Well, the people who listen to it will probably have some influence because they might, oh, well, put my phone down. That's not that hard. Let me try that. Oh my God, I put my phone down. I didn't take my phone to the gym for a whole month. I gained 50 pounds on my squat and 30 on my deadlift, 20 on my bench, and I lost 10 pounds. Maybe it was your phone because you weren't doing anything when you were there.
Yeah.
Now, do I like music? Yeah. Do I listen to music while I train? A lot of times, yeah. Sometimes I just listen to when I'm doing low level stuff. I might just do a podcast. I might listen to a book. I might actually. I mean, I've listened to books again, and everyone's different. I consume 4 books a month. Two of them are via audio. The others are I read. You know,
Mm.
that's 4 books. That's 48 books a year. Do that for
That's more
50 years.
that's more books than some people read in an entire year.
I know. And it's
Yeah.
crazy, but it's like people are like, well, why do you read so many books? I go, well, it's kind of this crazy thing. It's where all the knowledge in the world that's in books. And I find it amusing now
Yeah.
that we're seeing from a science standpoint, because we've gone from books to tablets and books to computers, and kids aren't learning as well. Now a lot of other countries are going back, get rid of the tablets, get rid of the computers, give them a damn textbook, and they learn better. It's kind of amazing. I don't know. I think it worked pretty good for us,
Yeah.
you know. But sometimes some lessons we have to learn again and again.
Speaking of lessons learned, we're getting close to the end of our hour. I wanted to ask you a question from your perspective for coaches, for athletes. What are some of your lessons learned that you would share with others? Give me like one or two key ones that you would share from your experience, from your perspective. Lessons learned that if you could do over again, what would you share with other coaches and athletes?
Two things. Number one, I'm going to hire a coach. Hire a coach early. Whether you're an athlete or whether you're a coach, hire a coach. A mentor. A mentor is worth its weight in gold. A good mentor is worth the $100,000 you spend on your education.
Mm.
Okay, I will say that, and I've been blessed to have some really good mentors in my life. Dr. Thayer when I was in college, and Jim and Debbie Palco. And then, I spent a lot of time. When I opened my first gym, I spent a lot of time on the phone with Louis Simmons from Westside Barbell and learned a ton from him. Dr. Ken Leisner was a huge impact on me. I met him at a trade show and read all of his articles. Ellington Darden and Arthur Jones. I never met Arthur Jones, but I met Ellington Darden numerous times, and he's just a very intelligent guy. But again, that was high intensity. Then I learned from Westside. Most recently, Clint Darden was a coach of mine, and my most recent coach and mentor would be Joe Ken, and Joe's the two-time strength coach of the year for NCAA and one-time NFL strength coach of the year. So I mean, if there was a Mount Rushmore of strength coaches, he'd be on it for sure. But I've learned so much from him and just reading and then him coaching me and just conversation. So I think people need to spend money on education and start with a mentor and hire a coach. I mean, just hire a coach. Um, when you go from there, then once you have hired a coach and you are coaching, spend money on education. I spend $5,000 a year on education and have for the last 25, 30 years. Um, why is that important? God, you're a master coach and you've done this and you've done that. Yeah, so what? Doesn't matter. There's always more to learn. And the funny thing is, like as a master coach for Parisi, I've been through the certification myself 14 times. I've taught it
Mm.
over 100 times. I still learn when I'm teaching it because young coaches see things. I'm old, 57, soon to be 58. I see things the way I see them, and young coaches see it a little different. Oh my God, that was great. Let me video that. I'm gonna steal it. I'll make sure you get credit because I think it's very important. People come up with stuff like, give credit where credit's due. I mean,
Hmm.
I will say that give credit where credit's due because if you learn it from somebody, give them the credit because they deserve it. And the thing is, there's no one's learning, no one's creating anything new. They're
Hmm.
not. Everyone thinks this is new. It's not. Nothing's new. Nothing's new. I mean, hell, you look at the stuff the Russians were doing in the 70s and 80s. That's the shit
Yep.
we're doing now. It's like they were doing this 40 years ago. So are we really revolutionary, or do we just rediscover it and now we package it of our own? Because
Right.
if you look at West Side, Louis, and again, this is the reason I say education is most important. Here's a guy who barely had a high school education, but he can read. So
Hmm.
if you can read, you can educate yourself. You don't need to buy it. You don't need to get a master's degree or a PhD. I mean, now again, there's inherent things that are come with that, and I think that's cool. I mean, you come with a lot of education, so we can have these debates, we can have conversations. Doesn't mean that you can't learn unless you're in school.
Of
No,
course not. Yeah.
pick up a book.
Education goes from the cradle to the grave, in my opinion, no matter what.
Exactly. And I think what ends up happening for most people, they quit educating themselves because they don't think they need anymore. When
Hmm.
you're absolutely wrong, you need to continue to learn. And that's what I think is the beauty of like what I think Bill has done with Parisi. I think he's as excited today as he was 30 years ago when he started the business because he's learning new stuff and he's able
Yep.
to disseminate new information and then new people are learning it and getting better. Now, am I going to sit here and say, and again, I'm partial to our system. I think our system is better than other people's because we've done it for 35 years. And
Hmm.
Bill, if you really get down to it, when it comes to youth sports performance, who was the pioneer? It was Bill Parisi. Now, is there other
Hmm.
people that came along? Yeah, there are. And, I look at, we've been doing it longer than anybody. So a lot of the stuff that we teach, if you look at other people's warm ups, kind of looks like ours. Well, where'd they learn it? Well, they bought our Parisi DVD back in 2004 on
Yeah.
warm up. They've been teaching the same thing. It's funny because I get kids like they watch an NFL games like, Coach, they're doing our warm up. I said, well, it's not just our warm up. It's an active dynamic warm up, but it's so universal now. We're good
Well, and
coaches.
now you have the pre-warm up, which is a
Right.
concept which I don't even think is really even discussed or talked about in the
If
Parisi
you look, I
system.
mean, there's some people out there, all the fascial people. Now, again, I'm a huge fan of learning. Naughty Aguilar it's called functional patterns.
Yep, yep. I know what
Okay.
you're talking about.
And he's very controversial. Basically, it's my way's the best and everyone else sucks. But it's like, there's, again, you're running at the same point, you're running a business. You got to say something. You got to stand on I watch his stuff and there's some stuff that I'm like, okay, I'll call horseshit on that. Then there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that, like I'm saying, you know what, he's on to something here. But it
Yeah.
becomes one that, as a fitness professional, am I going to throw out the baby with the bathwater? No. He can teach people stuff, and I think what ends up happening, he's very again, I would say argumentative, but quite intelligent. I think that we have to continue to look like the guy is intelligent. And then you look at anatomy trains, you look at Tom anatomy trains, you look at Michelle Delacourt with Viper. There's so many great people out there with good information. Read it, learn it, apply it, use
Mhm.
what's effective, discard what's not. Because I'm a big fan of like Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do was like, you know what? I'm going to beg, borrow, and steal from any art. I don't care if it's effective, we'll keep it. If it's not, we toss it. That's
Right.
kind of my philosophy of training. You know, yeah, man, do we need to train heavy, heavy, heavy weights and have absolute strength? Only if you're in an absolute strength sport. If you're in a real sport, no, you don't. There's absolutely no reason. Why does your lineman have to squat 800 pounds? I'd rather your lineman squats 550 fast because that's going to get him better on the field.
Yep.
And then are we sprinting? Are we doing the stuff we need? Are we training in omnidirectional with low loads? You need to do that. So I think when people realize that, invest in your education, find educators. And the thing is, like, I've spent money on dumb shit that's like dumb. I paid $2,000 for a seminar once, got one coaching cue, and the guy's like, "Well, how'd you like the seminar?" I said, "Well, that $2,000 was that coaching cue was worth the $2,000." Well, did you get anything else? I got some other stuff, but I'd already known, but it was just reinforcing it. But the coaching cue that you gave me is worth the $2,000. He goes, "Are you kidding me?" And this is from a world class coach. I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, it was worth it, every bit of it." Okay, cool. I look at it like this: if I can learn something by a seminar, reading a book, and I only learned one, I read a 500-page book, but I learned one thing. That was worth it.
One thing that you can apply and use, right?
Yeah, you got to be able. It's all about how can you take it back and apply it.
Yeah.
So I look at from the power of positive coaching, which is really at my heart. I think that's the best thing about Parisi is it's the best hour of that kid's day or that adult's day. That's what our goal is. And just if you just you'll kind of I think some of the people kind of laugh this like you got to love your clients.
Mm.
If you don't love your clients, why are you doing it? Find something else to do.
Yeah.
I'm a huge number one. What are you good at? And what are you passionate about? If you can be good at something and passionate about it, like I wear pajamas every day and I coach. You know, I mean, I don't have to put on a suit anymore. I don't have to. I'm not a C-suite executive guy anymore. I can wear a sweatsuit every day and coach, and I said I'll be very happy. But then when you're seeing these kids or these adults, they're making progress and they're doing things they never thought they could do. I mean, it's awesome. I trained with one of my clients this morning, and she did I mean, she's a master's athlete. She's closing in on 50. Uh, she punched up a 165-pound axle incline for a triple, which is a lifetime PR. She'd already
Wow.
PR'd like 3 times. Like she goes, "What do you think?" I said, "Go up, go up." How many often to go up? I've already hit a PR. I said, "Well, when your body's giving it to you, keep taking it." She goes, "I
Yeah.
hit 4 PRs today." I said, "Isn't it awesome?"
Hit a fifth.
She's like, because she's a powerlifting coach and she's helps with a facility where she trains coaches at. And she's like, I just haven't had a kind of a crap 2 weeks because I was busy and not sleeping, not eating. She goes, but I was hydrated, I ate well, I feel good. Take it when you can get it. And
Hmm.
you just the look on her face, the smile on her face. I mean, I've never done hard drugs, so like, but I get the idea of like I get my fix. So when I
Yeah.
see my athletes performing, I get my fix. I mean, I train a lot of high level strength athletes and they do well. I get my fix. If it's a 7-year-old kid that, I'll send it to, I'll see if I can find, I'll text it to you. It's one of my kids, he's 5 years old and his sisters were in Parisi and can coach. And he talks kind of has a list. He doesn't have talk real like this. Coach, when can I start doing Parisi? And I'm like, well, Hudson, you can do Parisi when you can learn the definitions. He's in the back of his car, making his sisters teaching the definition of acceleration and the focal points. And the kid comes in and he goes, actually, when you can tell me, I'll let you go to class. But if you can't do acceleration, the definition and the focal points, you can't go to acceleration class. Dude comes in after 2 days. He comes back in and gives me the definition. I'm like, well, buddy, I guess you're going to class. Like, I didn't charge that kid. Hell, I had three of his siblings were in it. I didn't charge parents to get him out to start it. And I was like, let's just see. I mean, he's 5 years old with a group of 7, 8, 9 year olds. Like, how effective? You know what? He paid attention. He had attention
Yeah.
span, and he got better. And then he came back. He learned the multi-directional speed. He's full blown kid, full blown athlete. Now the kid's like 9 years old, and he plays on 11U teams because he's so used to he's athletic. But when you see that smile go off on the kid's face, man, there's nothing like that.
And you basically just took this kid and you basically the trajectory of his life may have just changed from that encouragement, right? I mean, that's amazing.
he has a great home life. His dad played football at Mizzou. I mean, his sisters, they're all high level athletes. He's going to be very successful. But yes, I think something that we do distinctly at Parisi and coaches in general, you impact your kids. And that's how I start every seminar. What kind of coach do you want to be? And I always ask, name that one coach that made the difference in your life. And everyone can tell me that coach. Name the one coach that sucked. Everyone can tell me that coach. My question is, which coach do you want to be in 20 years? You want to be the one the kids are telling stories about, or the ones killing that guy sucked? I want to be the one that they're calling you. I mean, I got a wedding invitation to kids' weddings that I coached. I get letters from them saying, you know what, here's where I'm at today because of you. I wouldn't be where I'm at. I mean, I've got one of my kids who plays ball at Minnesota. He gave me his bowl jersey, and just on the back, he very heartfelt. I wouldn't be where I'm at without you. And I'm like, God, man, dude, like when you see that stuff, like, and I could do this 100, 200 times. I that's really what coaching's about. It's really about just making the impact. And it's like I always ask when I train athletes, what's the legacy going to be? Like if I'm at a high school, specifically at the high school when my kids went to high school, what's your class's legacy? Is there a flag on the wall with your sectional championship? Is
Hmm.
there a conference championship? Did you do something special? How will people remember you? And I think that's important. So it's like I always say this, like when my mom died, I come back to my mom. When my mom died, over 600 people came to her wake. She impacted people's lives. So if I had something I want to do, I want to impact people's lives. And I think that's what coaches do is we impact kids' lives. And a strength coach, sports performance coach probably impacts more lives than a position coach or a head coach or a teacher, because the kids are with us and we can instill things into them and get them to believe in themselves. I mean, one of my kids sent me a text. He's on the U.S. bobsled team. He sends me a text like, I wouldn't be where I'm at without you. And I started training this kid when he was 12, and now he's 21. And it's like, Andy, you're an incredibly gifted athlete. And I said, but you know what? He goes, but you believed in me, which made me believe in myself, and this is where I'm at. So I think it's a lot of times as coaches or business owners, and you invest in people. Like I look at my staff and I tell my staff this period: if your end goal is to work for me, it's too small. I don't want you working for me. If you want to open your own facility someday, as long as you don't do it in my backyard, I'm going to help you. Now, subsequently, I've got 17 of my former athletes or coaches who either own or run a business in this field. Why is that important? Because what's your legacy?
Hmm.
How will you be remembered? When you look at I don't know, look at Coach Wooden. How many people have read his books? Is that legacy? You know, I mean, again, and I grew up, I'm a Purdue grad, so Gene Katie and Bobby Knight, who was a better coach? Well, Gene Katie is a good coach. Bobby Knight won more, but did I want to be known as a Bobby Knight or a Gene Katie? Do I want to be a Tony Dungy? You know, that kind of a coach? You know, are you making an impact in what really matters, not just athletics, but in life? So I think that's where we're at. What I think differentiates Parisi from everyone else is we're teaching life skills. Not, I mean, anyone can make a kid tired. Anyone can make with the right science, you make a kid faster. But can we instill lifestyle habits into them that are going to make them better people? And I think at the end of the day, that's really that's what differentiates Parisi from everybody else is the fact that we teach our coaches to care and we teach our coaches to make that the best hour of that person's day. And if you do, then they can fall in love with fitness. Because let's just face it, if you like working out, you're an anomaly. Most people hate working out. They just work out because they know they need to. But
Right.
it's like taking medicine. I know I got to take this medicine. I don't like it, but I'm gonna do it. But like if you can make it suck a little less, they want to come more, and then they start to enjoy it. And then it's always the fruits of their labor. It's not the labor. No one wants no the labor sucks. It's like
The labor sucks.
but
Yep.
when you're at the beach in the summer and I was like, man, you look great. What do you do? I said, I've been busting my ass for the last 6 months. I feel great.
Yep.
And now you get the kudos there.
Yep. Yep.
It's making it the best hour of their day. And if you love your staff and they love your clients, your business is going to be wildly successful.
Well, Coach, this has been one of the best hours I've spent in a long time, and I've learned a
Good.
lot from you this hour, and I'm really appreciative of you spending the time with us. And I hope the listeners also find this very valuable. I'm sure they will. Can you tell folks as we wrap up here, where can they follow along? Where can they find you?
Uh,
And how?
I'm not really original. It's Chad Coy on Facebook and it's Chad Coy on Instagram. I don't do
Nice.
TikTok. I don't do a lot of the other stuff. I used to have a YouTube page. It's still there. I just don't use it that much. Or you can go to Parisi, the Parisi site, and you can find me on Parisi. Other than that, it's like I'm not a huge social. I mean, I post stuff up, but like I'm not an influencer. I'm a coach who is in the trenches. So, but yeah, just if you want to reach out to me. Number one, it's about helping people. I mean, that's my job. That's what I do every day. Is try to find a way of help someone to become more successful, whether it's in their business or as an athlete. Um, Now, the business side, yeah, I'm the director of business development for the Parisi Speed School. So I help gym owners understand youth performance training and here's business systems. Because, like I said before, degrees in exercise science don't teach you anything about business. I'm going
Nope.
to teach you about business so you can make money. Because at the end of the day, what's really sad, what breaks my heart is I see so many good coaches leave coaching because they don't know how to make money. I can teach people how to make money. You can do this. And is this a noble career? Yes, yes, it is. Coaching is probably the most noble career because you're going to effectively change people's lives. You get people 4 hours a week. What's your college professor get you? An hour, 2 hours? Maybe you go into a lab. What's your high school teachers get? You know, the people you're around, you're the people you're around that's going to influence you forever. And it's like that's why I look at what we do is so important as far as from an educational standpoint. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Coach, it's been great. Thanks for the
it's
chat.
awesome, man.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you later.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Next Set podcast and today's episode. If this episode or previous episodes have helped you think or train differently, please share it with someone who needs it. You can find more coaching resources at apextacticalathletics.com. Put that in the description, and you can find us on Instagram at the Next Set Podcast. We'll see you at the next set.